Much for joining us on the KHOU 11 Plus app. I'm Rekha Muddaraj, and we are continuing our coverage of that deadly chopper crash just east of downtown in 2nd Ward. A helicopter crashed into a radio tower. This happened last night just before 8 p.m. It killed 4 people, including a child. Now, as the sun came up this morning, we got our first look at the scene. And this afternoon, this is brand new video from Air 11 showing us the extent of that damage. Investigators have been working around the clock to learn more. Our Agochi Iloka is near the crash site, which is by Navigation and Ennis Streets. She has more from investigators.
Within the last couple of hours, the Houston Police Department's Vehicular Crimes Unit says they'll spend anywhere from 4 to 5 hours today looking at approximately 4 acres of the coverage area near the crash site. Now, this is chopper video from Air 11, which shows where the fire burned about 100 to 200 yards of grass near the crash site. This is also where officers are conducting a 3D scan of the area and taking photographs to hand over to the NTSB and FAA to conduct their investigation. You can also see here what's left of the radio tower after the fire was put out. Then this security video shows when the helicopter crashed into the radio tower near Angelic Street and Ennis Street last night, causing the fire. Now we are trying to find out where the helicopter was headed and the names of the 4 victims killed, including 1 child. No homes were damaged. However, officials urge residents today who find components of the aircraft to not touch them, but call 911 instead.
Now we're out in the daylight, more things are going to be found, so I would stress to folks, please don't touch anything. Evidence preservation as well as respect for these families that are going through this tragedy right now. We have multiple resources out here, so please find an officer, let them know about this.
And according to the FAA, there was a warning issued over potential issues with inoperable lights on the tower earlier this month. However, in surveillance video, we appear to see at least one of those lights was on, raising questions about visibility at night regarding the radio tower. This is something else investigators are looking into. Reporting in East Downtown Houston, Agochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
All right, Agochi, thank you, with more images from the scene. In the meantime, we did hear more from officials. Houston Mayor John Whitmire, HFD Chief Thomas Munoz, HPD Chief Noe Diaz, and of course DPS. They gathered for a news conference earlier today. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Good morning, I'm Lieutenant Jonathan French, FRENCH, Lieutenant with our Vehicular Crimes Division here at the Houston Police Department. You're aware of the tragedy that we had happen last night, and overnight members of the Houston Police Department, multiple members from here in the South Central District, which is this area of responsibility, as well as citywide, which included our rapid mobilization police. Those are officers from citywide that can respond to major scenes. Our department, along with the Department of Public Safety, the DPS, helped maintain scene integrity and secure the perimeter of this scene. Right now, the lead agency is going to be our National Transportation Safety Board, coupled with the Federal Aviation Administration. They'll be addressing some of the questions you may have a little later this morning. But right now, I want to start off by first thanking our Houston Fire Department for their quick response. They were here almost immediately, as the mayor discussed last night. And as the mayor's mentioned before, we're working cooperatively, the Department of Public Safety, along with the NTSB and FAA and the Houston Police Department. So again, I want to thank HFD. I want to thank our partners at the Department of Public Safety, as well as our medical examiner's office. They've all been working tirelessly throughout the whole night on this. What I would say to our citizens, first off, thank you for those that have called in. Obviously we're in daylight now, so people that live in this area are going to discover more debris. And what I would ask is, if you see an officer, you found debris, please let a Houston police officer or a Department of Public Safety officer or any other law enforcement official you may find out here know about that. If not, you're welcome to call the Houston Police Department. Those officers will coordinate with the proper authorities for removal of any debris. Our Vehicular Crimes Division right now They're looking at approximately, and I'm going to say approximate because that could either expand or that could lessen during their investigation, but approximately 4 acres of coverage. And what our Vehicular Crimes Division reconstruction crew will do is conduct a 3-dimensional scan of that area. That'll include photographs, which will take approximately 4 to 5 hours. It may take longer. Once that's done, within 2 to 3 days, the Houston Police Department will provide that evidence to the NTSB and the FAA for them to conduct their investigation, because again, they're going to be the leads in this investigation. Do you have any questions at this time?
So there have been reports of debris.
Correct.
How many?
We're getting multiple reports of debris, and I would imagine there's probably going to be more that come in this morning. And again, what I said is, we have officers that are going to be out here all day. We've got them all around the perimeter from South Central Division, this area of responsibility, but also citywide. And we'll continue to have officers here throughout the day, probably into the evening time, basically as long as this investigation takes. And so what I would ask, if any citizens find debris, please notify an officer. You're probably going to have one that within view that you could flag down. If not, please call HPD. You can call 911 or call our main dispatch phone number, and we'll make those arrangements.
Can you stress the importance?
I'm sorry, hold on.
Do you know what this debris was, though? Do you know if it was radio tower, if it was helicopter?
Right now, I don't want to speculate. There's multiple things that are being found in the debris right now. This is a large, expanded scene. So, and out of respect for our families, I don't want to get into too many details on that.
Can you stress the importance of people not touching the debris and how that can affect the investigation?
Absolutely. So any debris that you're found right now is considered evidence, and that's why we've been out here all night, making sure to secure that scene. Now, we knew ahead of time, at nighttime you're not going to be able to see as many things, but now we're out in the daylight, more things are going to be found. So I would stress to folks, please don't touch anything. Evidence preservation as well as respect for these families that are going through this tragedy right now. We have multiple resources out here, so please find an officer, let them know about this, call our 911 or call our dispatch. I feel very confident in saying we've got a lot of officers on scene. I've spoken to several of those officers just walking this scene, and a lot of officers are talking to the residents that are notifying them of the findings, and they're making the right arrangements through the medical examiner and through other entities to pick up debris.
Have there been any reports of damages to homes or buildings over here?
At this time, I don't have details of damage to homes. I can tell you walking, I've seen a little bit of damage to some vehicles. I don't know about homes. That's obviously going to be part of that investigation, and we'll have more information probably at a later date. I do know thus far there's been no reports of any civilian injuries or any residential injuries here in this area, which we're thankful for.
Could you talk about have the families been notified, and can you give any update on approximate ages? I know we were told 1 child.
Yeah, at this time I can't. I don't want to speculate. I don't have all the details on that. I think the NTSB along with DPS and probably the medical examiner's office are going to be handling a lot of those notifications. They can speak more specifically to that later this morning when they have their news conference.
Do you know that the people have been ID'd?
I do not. I don't have that information right now. That's going to come from the medical examiner's office and not from HPD.
Obviously, this is a tragedy, but talk about, this could have been a lot worse. I mean, there's homes nearby. There was a festival going on last night. Can you touch on that a bit? I think everyone here is thankful. All of our officers are thankful. The neighborhood is pretty thankful. This could have been much worse, right? I don't know if by the grace of God, where this happened, spared anyone from on the ground, being injured from this. This is a large scene, like I mentioned, at least, and I could be talking less or more, 4 acres. So the potential could have been much worse, and we're thankful for that. But we want to keep the families and our victims in mind right now. This is a horrible tragedy, but obviously it could have been much worse, and we're thankful that it's not.
How long did you said 4 to 5 hours they'll block off these roads?
Now, the roads may be blocked off longer than that. The 4 to 5 hours I referred to is for our Vehicular Crimes Division to conduct their scene investigation, which is photographs, and we have technology to conduct a 3-dimensional scan of that scene. All that will then be coupled into an investigative package that the NTSB will be given for their investigation. And what we're doing is basically we're partnering with NTSB to help them with their investigation.
That was Lieutenant Jonathan French with the Houston Police Department giving us more information there. Now, all of this happened right in the middle of homes and businesses. This is a busy area. Many people saw or just heard even what happened, that helicopter crash, and of course that the fire that followed. We spoke to Chad. He lives nearby and was one of the first people on the scene after the crash, and he describes the moments in the immediate aftermath.
There's a lot of people out of their houses on the streets. These guys at the fire station right behind, they were moving in there. I know the area really well, so we went through the side and we got over to the area where everything was burning. I was just trying to find a helicopter, something that looked like a helicopter. And there was just nothing, nothing I've been working rescue half my life, and there was nothing I could describe as a helicopter. It was just fire. I ran around both sides. I climbed over it. There was just nothing.
What were your thoughts when you saw the damage?
Terminator 2. That's it. I mean, it was just, I've never seen anything like that working rescue. Nothing. I knew as soon as I saw it, there's no signs of life.
Did you see the crash happen?
We saw the crash. We were right here on Canal. The helicopter hit it towards the top. I know a lot of people are speculating on whether the tower lights are on or not. I couldn't tell you that. We saw and heard the explosion. The helicopter went straight down. The tower, they're made to fall like that. It just crumpled right there with it.
Do you live in this area?
We live in this area.
Do you typically see that tower if the lights are on, or do you know?
Right. So we have Moon Tower Sedworks over here, and we call it the Moon Tower because of the name and everything. We've been looking at that tower for years. As of late, I couldn't tell you whether the lights are on or not. Throughout my life, yeah, they've been on, but as of late, I just really couldn't tell you.
By any chance, did you notice if there was a fire at the helicopter when that happened?
No.
Prior to that?
There was no sign of any kind of distress or anything in the air that would have caught my attention. I was already facing it. So if the helicopter would have been going through something and then hit the tower, we would have saw that first.
And what made you want to run towards that crash?
I'm a Texan. That's what I do. That's why I work rescue. If there's something going wrong, run towards it.
How are you feeling today? I mean, knowing about...
Shook. I've seen a lot of messed up stuff in my life. I guess it hurts worse to hear that there allegedly might have been a child on board, and it hurts. Hurts can't do nothing for nobody when they go through something like that. Just my love and goes out to all the family members and their loved ones.
Officers have said that it's a pretty widespread area where there may be some debris. Have you seen anything and you're walking around?
All I'm going to say is there's lots of debris in the area.
All right now we've got meteorologist Pat Cavlin here, and we're also joined by Robert Sumwalt. He is a former chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. Excited to talk to both of you about this because we obviously want to learn more. Pat, I'm going to start with you though. We're going to talk about weather conditions last night. Things seemed pretty clear.
Yeah, they were. I mean, our weather here lately has been fantastic, and that is typically one of the first things that everyone looks towards when we have an aviation accident is just, how is the weather?
Yeah.
Right? Was there something that's obvious that could have led to this crash? And the answer is no. I don't think weather is going to be the direction that the NTSB and that the FAA go in terms of this investigation. I think it's going to be focusing on the pilot. It's going to be focusing on the conditions that were happening during that flight. It's going to be focusing on how the visibility was for the pilot.
And we should mention you are a licensed pilot, so you're saying flying conditions were good last night.
Yeah, flying conditions were pretty much as good as they get for us here in Southeast Texas, or really for anywhere. We had clear skies, we had at least 10 miles visibility, so that really was not an issue. And in a statement from the NTSB, they said that this looked like it was a sightseeing tour, which is typically something that you would do in good weather. So, I mean, we had cloudless skies, it was picture perfect out there, so that really does raise a lot of questions as to what happened.
All right, let's go to Robert Sumwalt now. Robert, are you there? Robert, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How do you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you just fine. Thank you so much for joining us. Robert, you're the former chairman of the NTSB. Can you just walk us through the first steps in an investigation like this?
Yeah, when the NTSB gets there, they're going to really do what they call is look for the four corners. They're going to stake out the four corners of where the aircraft would be: the tail, the nose, the propeller blades, and they're going to check with the local law enforcement to see what they can tell them, and then they'll start sifting through the wreckage to look for critical perishable evidence, information that can go away with the passage of time.
So, Robert, a key question is whether the lights on that radio tower were reportedly inoperable. As of October 16th, they were reported to be out. But of course, we are looking at surveillance video from earlier today that shows at least one of those lights was on. I know this investigation just started, but how important are lights and signals on structures like that for pilots?
Well, the lights are there for a reason, and you're right. By looking at the video, you can see the light on top of the tower, but this is a 1,000-foot tower. It's 1,000 feet tall, 999 feet technically. So it's supposed to have lights periodically going up the tower, and it appears that those lights were not operable per the notice put out by the FAA. So those lights, again, they're there for a reason. They are there so that pilots can see the obstruction and avoid it. When they're not there, that can cause problems.
I just want to give the viewers that are watching us a little bit of background on what Robert's talking about. It's a service called a NOTAM, which is a notice to all air missions, or notice to airmen, two words that kind of fit into that acronym. And basically this is something that pilots are required to look at before they go on their flights. So this is something that any pilot flying in that area should have read in their brief before the flight, before going up. And what you're looking at here, this is the flight aware map. And what we have circled there on the right-hand side of the screen, that is the helicopter that left from Ellington Field, went north towards the ship channel and made that turn towards the west, going towards downtown. And you can see where the helicopter stops right there is where that accident happened there, just to the east of downtown. Robert, I think, from pilot to pilot, you have experience as an airline pilot for I believe over 2 decades, a little more experience than I have in the air. When it comes to these NOTAMs, when it comes to tower lighting, some towers, and you may not know the answer to this, but some towers have the strobe lights on them, and those are indicated a certain way on the sectional charts. And then other towers don't have that high strobe lighting. Would you know the difference on which towers receive that kind of lighting versus which don't?
No, I don't. But when I was the NTSB chairman, I was very critical of the NOTAM process because, as you pointed out, pilots are required to check these before flight. But even knowing that NOTAM existed, I had a heck of a time trying to find it in the FAA's database, because there are so many notices to airmen or notices to air missions. And so that's part of the problem, is there's so many. How do you check them all? So that's what we're hoping. The NTSB has recommended that there be a better process for filtering NOTAMs so people can find the things that are actually relevant. If I was an airline pilot flying into San Francisco, I would not be concerned about a tower that's unlighted that's 7 miles from the airport, or flying into Houston. But if I'm a helicopter pilot flying around low level, yes, I would be very concerned. I would need to know that information.
That's so true, and I really just want to expand a little more on that. Is that the list of these NOTAMs can go on for pages and pages and pages, and so while by the letter of the law, pilots are required to look at this information, I think there are many times where pilots are not looking at all of these NOTAMs, especially if it's an airport that they're regularly flying out of. I think there's this air of complacency where, look, I know that this taxiway has been closed for the last 3 weeks. I don't have to read over the same thing. So I think that's a great point that you make, Robert, and something that we typically see come out of these, at least bigger accidents. You typically do see this redoing of processes. revamping of safety protocols. So it'll be interesting to see if this can move the needle on that at all once they discover what the final cause of this crash was.
I wanted to ask about the actual helicopter. It's an R-44. It was a private aircraft. Can you describe this aircraft? Tell us a little bit more about kind of its size and capacity.
Yeah, I don't know who the question's for. I can't see the show from where I am right now, but you know, it is I think it's a 4-passenger, maybe 5-passenger, single-engine helicopter. The Robinson R-44 is a very popular helicopter, so I don't think it has any particular safety issues. I mean, this is a case where clearly the helicopter ran into the tower, so I don't think it's a problem of airworthiness with the helicopter itself.
Robert, can we just talk about, on a very fundamental, basic level for the viewers, a lot of folks I think are sitting back at home and they're wondering, how can something like this happen? How can a pilot that has flown through this area many, many times, presumably, get into a situation like this? And especially folks that are looking at the video of the crash that shows the light on at the top of that tower. Can you just talk about how nighttime impacts and impairs pilots' vision, and also how flying in a densely populated city with many high buildings can have an impact on a pilot's vision for these kinds of obstacles?
Yeah, I think you raise a great point there. When you're looking into the city of Houston lights, downtown Houston lights, and that could really make this obstruction virtually impossible to see unless it did have those obstruction lights that we've talked about going up the side of the tower.
I want to ask you, Robert, about the debris field, specifically because it does spread across about 4 acres. That's what the HPD lieutenant was telling us. And he made very clear he's asking for members of the public, because there were a lot of witnesses and obviously a lot of people coming out to see what happened. He's asking folks who find anything not to touch any of that debris that they may find. Why is that so important?
Well, you want the investigative authority to get out there and actually document the wreckage as it actually fell onto the ground. So it's critical that they are able to accurately document it. I think that's the main thing right there. But there have been cases in foreign countries where people actually decide to take the souvenirs. So certainly you don't want anybody souvenir hunting out there. I know the citizens of Houston aren't going to be doing that. I know the scene is locked down pretty well, but I think really you want to make sure that everything is preserved until the investigators can start ruling things out.
Robert, a few more questions on the NOTAM issue. The chatter that we've seen online, especially on X, is just about, is the company that owns this radio tower, are they responsible? Are they negligent for the lights being out? Can you just talk about what their role is in reporting this to the FAA, the timeline that they would have to fix this issue, and how that could play into this investigation?
It's a legal question you've asked. I don't know the answer to that, but the fact that it was NOTAM'd out by the FAA, that indicates, to me at least, that there was proper notification to the FAA that could then alert pilots that the lights were inoperative.
Again, I know this is all very preliminary, and it's been less than 24 hours since this crash has happened. But I'm not a pilot, you two are, and maybe you can both answer this question. If you are in a situation where you come up upon an object, a building, a structure, what steps do you take to avoid it? How quickly does your response time need to be? I mean, this is all very scary for folks watching from the ground and people who are not in the field of aviation. But how are you trained to avoid these sorts of issues?
Unfortunately, I think Robert will echo this, these towers are a lot harder to see than buildings. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunately a little more likely that an accident like this would happen as opposed to an aircraft going into a larger, more well-lit structure, at least when weather conditions are the way that they were last night. And Robert, you can obviously speak to this, having worked with the NTSB for many years. That these incidents involving steel cables, whether it's tethered objects to the ground or towers, I mean, these are not unheard of. And sometimes it isn't even a matter of whether or not the lights are operable. Sometimes it's just a matter of the pilot's orientation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have anything to add to that. So whatever it is, as you pointed out, it's a horrible tragedy, and our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this tragedy.
And I just want to say, this really is a pilot's worst nightmare. I was talking to someone in the newsroom about this earlier today, and they were also kind of dumbfounded. How does something like this happen? And look, whether this is the pilot's fault or not, I think it just kind of brings everyone back to earth that pilots are human, they make mistakes. And it just shows you that you really have to be on your game every time. But that's hard, and it really is easier said than done. And even the most experienced pilots can get themselves into situations like this, because I guarantee this pilot knew that that tower existed and was there, but it is so easy to lose your exact bearings when you're in the air, especially at nighttime. And Robert, like you had mentioned earlier, when you're flying from this position towards the west, you have the skyline of the city of Houston as your backdrop, especially when you're at the altitude. The NTSB, which is the transponder that basically gives us the information, the flight data for this aircraft, had the helicopter at around 600 to 625 feet, and a lot of the buildings downtown are that height or taller. And so when you're at that altitude a few miles away, I mean, you're pretty much eye level with those buildings, which makes seeing obstructions or obstacles like this close to impossible. And I just think that, I mean, that's a scary thing.
Robert, finally, we know that these investigations can take a long time. What do you foresee as far as when we might be able to get some concrete answers in the way of what happened in this crash?
Well, the NTSB will put out a preliminary report within the next 14 business days, but to actually reach the probable cause and the final report, you're right, that will take a while. The NTSB typically says it takes between about 12 and 18 months before the final report comes out.
And Robert, in that time, what are the things that they're going to be looking at? Are they going to try to reconstruct this helicopter? Are they going to be diving into the background of the pilot?
Yeah, certainly I don't think they'll try and reconstruct the helicopter, because we basically know what happened here. We know that it hit either the tower or the guide wires, so we know that much. They will be looking for any electronic information that may be on board the airplane, the helicopter. If in fact this was, as we just heard, a tour helicopter, oftentimes people taking tour flights or videoing it, so they'll be looking for any sort of devices, the iPhones, iPads, anything like that will help them to recreate the accident scenarios. They'll look at the pilot's pre-flight planning. They'll look at the pilot's background. All of those things they will do, and they'll do it right.
And just the idea that some of this may have been caught on camera from inside the helicopter is kind of chilling.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Robert, anything else you'd like to add? I mean, we appreciate your insights so far. Anything else we missed or didn't ask you about?
No, but again, thank you for having me again. Very sad for the city of Houston, the residents, and of course the people who are involved.
Absolutely. Robert Sumwalt, former chairman of the NTSB, and Pat Cavlin, thank you so much to both of you for your insight. And thank you for joining us on KHOU 11+. This story is constantly evolving as new details are revealed. So for the very latest updates on this crash, you can head to KHOU.com. I'm Rekha Muddaraj. We'll see you back here on air for the 411.